What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. What's up, Shane?
What you doing, brother?
Hey, hit him again with that one. That's our little intro there. Last podcast was fire. And today I'm going to be honest, Shane, the things I'm seeing on Twitter are crazy. You got some stuff to touch on with Elon Musk. I saw him talking to Joe Rogan, or he actually retweeted a tweet of Joe Rogan talking about Starlink. Because the floods right now, people are without power. Trump went down there, he's trying to help out, even though he's not the president. I told my wife earlier, I said, what the hell is Trump doing down there? It's pretty sad if you think about it.
Right.
He's not even really a politician at this point. He's a private citizen, right?
Well,
but he's running as a candidate, but he's there where Kamala and Biden should be. I thought that was very odd, but we'll get into all that. But that's probably the most pressing and crazy thing happening, the floods in Georgia and some other states, right? Go ahead.
North Carolina, Tennessee. Real quick, let me say what you just said. Like I told you, when Trump started out running, I couldn't stand the guy. To me, he was a New York liberal, talking about running as a Republican. And I knew nothing other than all the flamboyant lifestyle. But what you just said about being down there, he's not currently the president. I've learned over the past several years, this dude was always doing stuff like this, looking out for people, doing nice things for people, paying for people's educations, and he just never publicized it. Now he's a former president and a presidential candidate. I mean, he can't hide it from everybody, the guy cares. He cares about other people.
And let's be honest, once you're in that tax bracket and you have some good money behind you, you can do things.
Right.
And even me to a certain degree, I'm just a little guy here, but in my city, I'm always willing to help if I can, good causes in the community. And I don't have nothing compared to Trump. I'm just saying, once you have that financial stability or freedom even, and it shows what kind of character you're about. Because I always said that there can be poor rich people and poor broke people, right?
Right.
Because money really, to a man, I don't think it really changes a man. It just exposes who you really are.
Right.
So if you don't have money, you're the same scumbag as if you do have money and you're still a scumbag. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So I think that Trump, he just has, kind of a heart to help. And with him having this financial, success in his life, we see it as him out there helping. But to him, it's really nothing to him, even though it is. And he's able to move around and to help people.
It's about doing the right thing to him. I think it's just, common sense. You see somebody that you can help that's in a bad way and you help them.
But Shane, I'm just tripping out that, I think Kamala and them, I think they're heading there, or they I don't even know if they were even there, but everything's all over Twitter. It's Trump. His face is all over everything, shaking hands with the people. Even if it's a photo op, which I don't believe it really is, but let's be honest, with politics, it is a photo op to a certain degree. But man, you see Trump out there with the people, I'm like, man, that's my guy right there. He's out there helping, sending out what he can. And Kamala and Joe Biden, I saw a video of Joe Biden, man. He's like a walking corpse.
They're absent, man. They're yeah. It's something else. And honestly, Mark Robinson is running for governor of North Carolina. Same thing. Day after this stuff happened, this guy's out there and their governor's absent. It's campaign season and all of this. And it just shows me that they care about winning. Mark Robinson and Donald Trump both care about winning, but they care about people more than they care about winning.
Amen. Let's get into the first topic. What do you want to touch on? Go ahead.
I would say one of the most interesting things that I come across this week, be on the lookout for, Pegasus phones. As far as I could find, it's going to be brought to the market here pretty quick, and it's being brought to the market the way I understand it by the same people that have Pegasus. It's a security system. It's an Israeli-designed security system, for communications and internet and things of that nature. This phone, the way I saw it pitched was that it's an alternative to Google and AT&T and Verizon. Everybody, collecting all your data, selling it, using it, giving it to government agencies without warrants or whatever. Supposedly, with that phone, the U.S. government will not be able to just track you and know everything you're doing and send you, personalized ads because you talked about a new commode. But like I said, the way I understand it was developed by NS07, I believe it was, and I understand, or I believe that it's connected and developed with Israeli intelligence. So the U.S. government may not be able to spy on you with it if you have it, but the Israeli government very well may be.
And why do you think that's a cause for alarm? Even though, of course, I know the answer, but why do you think people should be looking out for this certain phone or this product that's pretty soon to hit the market?
Well, I mean, there's a few things in the news lately, but I'm going to go back a little bit further. So I understand it to be pretty commonly known that Epstein was a Mossad agent for Israeli intelligence. That's where he got his money to buy his island, to buy his jet, where he got introduced to politicians and world leaders, and for that purpose, for honeypot trapping them.
Hold on, Shane. You're a crazy right wing Trumper over here. That's what they're gonna say. But can you back this up with facts, or how did you come to this conclusion?
Well, I mean, nobody just becomes a billionaire without some kind of history in some kind of industry. You can't do it selling tacos on the street corner. You can't become a billionaire. Nobody who doesn't know all of those politicians and world leaders and industry leaders just magically can get them to jump on an airplane. Where do they get an island from? This is a guy that, he met a woman whose father was in British intelligence, was very well connected with this Israeli intelligence, and he meets her. There they go, and everything that else happened. We know we've seen everything except for the flight manifest that says who went to the island and when. But I said that to say that the United States considers, even the United States, which gives Israel billions of dollars, considers them to be one of the most adverse intelligence agencies in the world, a threat to the United States intelligence agencies. But I just thought it was interesting, as if, and there may be a big segment of the American population that's going to say, "Oh yeah, I don't want Google to have my information, but I trust Israel with it." But it was just a thing I saw that I thought was kind of, I just thought it was different, to see the way it was being marketed when I saw it. And I would say, from there, we got a couple other things. The city council races, they have 2 races this year, 2 seats that are up. What else do we have? Let me look at the notes.
I'm looking right now with Elon Musk. Me speaking about him earlier. We actually have 4 or 5 comments on the Facebook, y'all. Once we start getting the show really rolling, y'all, we're gonna go live and we'll be able to take phone calls in the studio. But if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and get to one of these questions if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Nazario Rodriguez. I said any issues, let us know. He questioned the outrageous water bills that most Odessa residents are getting. Mine went from $100 a month to $400 even, shaking my head. Now, I don't live in Odessa, but I don't know if there's anything else about Odessa, the water, but you have any input on that?
My first thought on that would be, I know that I've heard over and over again the previous several months that they were fixing to do some major repairs and maintenance to the water infrastructure in Odessa. They had a bunch of old, 50, 60-year-old valves that were seized that they couldn't close and they couldn't open. And right out the gate, that tells me that the city is paying for that water maintenance. Whether they jumped it up, whether they jumped it up citywide 3 cents a gallon or a half a penny per gallon, that can get you pretty good. 100 to what did he say, 400? So yeah, I mean, he multiplied 4 times. So and also check your commodes, make sure they're not leaking by. Make sure somebody's not leaving the water hose barely leaking. As long as that meter's running, you're paying. In general, with public services, I'm not aware that they just randomly, increase rates. It should be under tighter control than that to be able to happen. But probably it has something to do with the city knowing that they're fixing to foot a major maintenance bill on that water system in Odessa.
I'll just add this. I don't know. I haven't heard about this, but I'll keep my ears out for this information. Look at that meter. Go open up your meter, wherever it's at, and usually by the street, and have all your water off, and just see if it's even running.
Right.
And that's how you can tell, because you might even have a leak.
Yeah.
I think my son, under his house, they had an actual leak of pipe, and thankfully his landlord fixed it. But you can have a busted pipe or
Right.
corroded piping under the house, and that can cause your water just to constantly be running, and then you got to foot the bill.
Yeah, the most common thing that I found and that I've been over, I've had happen several times, is inside the float valve inside my toilet bowl tank. It'll just get stuck where it's not quite closing, and it'll sit there and run 24 hours a day.
One time mine got stuck, and something happened to where my toilet, it was clean water, thank God, but it filled up, and my wife was pissed. We had about that much water in the restroom,
Yeah.
and she was mad, and it really happened about a couple months ago. Okay, so let's continue. I'm gonna get to this, and then we'll go to some more national politics. Where we'll maybe talk about these people that are running. Stephanie says big money backing certain candidates. Now is a local post. So you have some information on some local guys?
I mean, I know who's running in those two races. I made a note of that. I would say typically when we think of big money, we think more state politics and federal, national campaigns. I do know in the past several years that there's been a couple of school board seats and city council seats where we could call it big money, because usually somebody's just buying, 500 or 600, maybe 1,000 signs for their district that they're running in, maybe runs $1,000 worth of commercials on the radio or something. But if I remember correctly, I want to say either in 2020 or 2022, maybe, that something like $17,000 was spent on either a school board seat or a city council seat.
Where was that at?
In Midland.
And what was weird about that?
Well, when people were typically spending somewhere between, I think the average had been like $2,000 to $5,000 to run, and you turn around and spend $17,000, that's 3.5 times what's normally spent.
Something to keep an eye on.
Right.
Okay. You have any information on the guys that are running? We have a segment on that or not? If not, it's fine.
So we got just to go over it real quickly. We have. I know that we have Heather Bredimus running against. Oh, that's great. I got a pop up on that screenshot.
That's what I hate about that.
District 1, we've got Heather Bredimus running against Brian Stubbs. Don't really know anything about Brian Stubbs. Again, sometimes without, I guess they have a little town hall at least once where people get to go ask them questions. If you can make it to that, if you can't, you're pretty much stuck like Chuck. But like I said, I don't know anything about Brian Stubbs. The one thing that sticks out that I remember about Heather Bredimus is that she was all about she was not just about trying to get people to wear masks. She was trying to get businesses to not let people shop or do anything else if they didn't wear a mask. And, to me, that doesn't speak well when you think of somebody that you want to represent you. That obviously shows the type of attitude that their view is that they're there to rule you. The at-large race, I can't remember which one of these guys. I think the guy that won it in the spring is not running, if I'm correct. But they got Burkholder, John Burkholder, Eric Davidson, Rance Norton, and Robin Poole. And the thing that I wondered about that was, I think we had a DA or assistant DA that was Robin Poole, 5 or 10 years ago, maybe. And I didn't know if that was the same one. I didn't get time to get deep off in that. Burkholder, I believe I've heard him several times talking to Craig, and I think he's just caught up in, he sees so much insanity. I don't know whether or not he has a plan or, a playbook to go in there and try to make a difference and be more of a representative and bring some more transparency to the city council, or I can't really form an opinion on that because I don't know enough about him. But when I hear him talk, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like a guy that was incredibly frustrated with the way things have been going, the lack of communication and transparency with local government. And so he threw his hat in the ring. The other candidates, same thing. I don't really know much about him.
Burkholder, I think that's going to be my guy, maybe. But I've spoken to him. I heard about him. I think he might be a good guy. Back to Bredemis, though. This woman, I called in. She was on the news talk radio, and she claims to be a Republican now. There's footage we have of her politicking for Joe Biden when it was time to vote, and she had her house. She put it on public display. She's a Biden supporter. And it's kind of weird that now she claims to be a conservative Republican, yet when I spoke to her on the radio, she could not muster the courage to say that she would vote for Trump if he was the nominee. So we're like, are you going to vote for Trump if he's the nominee? And she's like, I will vote for the person that gets nominated. And people are so frustrated because she could not muster, she could not say it. Well, and that to me says that you really hate the guy. If you can't even say, I will vote for Trump, you're just saying you're going to vote for the person that's the nominee, but you cannot come to say you're going to vote for Trump.
Yeah, I personally, so if you're sitting in office, you've already been elected, and so you have relationships with people that are already in office, lateral and horizontally and all that. I kind of get not getting out there to endorse somebody in a primary, right? Because one of your friends or one of your colleagues that you know well and respect may be running against another colleague that you know and respect. This is different what you're talking about. He's unequivocally the leader of the Republican Party. And there may be some elements like the McCain and Cheney, that thing keeps on moving on me. But there may be some elements that aren't fully aware or don't want to accept that.
Go ahead.
But I'll tell you this, it come out in the news this week. For the first time in decades, there are more registered Republican voters in a lot of these swing states than Democrats. And that's the first time this has happened in decades.
I watched the numbers really moved. They jumped.
Oh, yeah, they've moved a lot. And what's happened is if you only have a small window, one campaign cycle, where all everybody hears from the media is this guy's this, and this, and they slander and defame the man, and you think, well, everybody's saying it. It'd be one thing if only one person was saying, but all the news stations are saying it. So a lot of people believe that, but then a guy gets 4 years in office. You see his policies. He didn't get us involved in any new wars. He lowered taxes, a little more freedom, more business opportunities in a lot of these cities that have been struggling. To bring in new businesses and stuff like that. Some reform with the prison sentencing reform with the First Step Act. All of these things, you actually get to see some of the things that he did, and he has kind of modified his demeanor as far as thinking a little bit before he speaks. And that's helped tremendously. But at the end
my wife don't like it. We kind of don't like it.
I can appreciate where he was. So one thing that he knew that everybody else wasn't fully comprehending right out the gate. He knew when he decided to run, what kind of resistance he was getting from the Republican Party, and then the lies and defamation, the slander, all of that came with the general election.
Yeah.
So he knew all of that, and he had to be fight for his life mode. That's what he was doing. He's fighting for his life. He believed and knew that he was the only one that was actually going to go in there and do something different from what's been being done. But as this relates back to Bredemis not being willing, he is the leader of the Republican Party. Okay. He's changing the demographics of the Republican Party, and that's saying something because he's not scared to go talk to people, and he includes everybody. He includes every demographic in our society, and for a candidate for any office not willing to take a stand and say, yes, I support this, or no, I don't support this, to me, it's just cowardice of the highest order. I mean, you can't say that you want to be a leader and a representative. You just want to be a politician. Well, we got enough politicians.
Hey, Shane, but I'm just grateful that the other guy's running against Heather, because I'm just going to say this. I don't care. I'm just glad he got to post anybody but Bredimus. This woman was very belligerent with the mask mandates. She was, very I got to be careful with my words on YouTube here, but she was just adamant about masking up the citizens, and she would even dox people.
Right.
We have pictures of her in the city council meetings, taking a selfie saying, I'm so upset with the Midlanders that don't want to wear masks.
And this business is not enforcing masks. And I remember
it was horrible. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And like I said, doxing people, shaming us for the mask, which I don't want to say too much about the mask, but we already kind of know what came out about that stuff. And to see her running now as a Republican when I believe she's a rhino, if anything, but I don't think she's a Republican. She's an actual Trump hater. And and I have family and friends that say they went to school with her, and she's always been a liberal.
Yeah.
But now she's running for a position, and I believe as a Republican, and I believe she's actually infiltrating the local government.
You can go back and check the tape. I've probably said that once or twice since the 4, 5, 6 weeks that we've been doing this. There are so many of these people, and you can take it from universities, from Baylor, Texas Tech even, and they started with it 40, 50 years ago at Yale, Harvard, the Ivy League schools, then the other East Coast schools, and they just spread it like they do everything, and they've taught these people, sometimes you have to say you're this so you can get elected. And they've also told them that when you get elected, what you're learning to do in government studies and all this, and as interns and congressional staff and all that, is to be an administrator. These people think that's what governing is administrating the state.
What is it?
That's so they think it's to run it, to grow the economy, to everything but what matters. What matters is the freedom. So I'm going to give the Bredimuses of the world a news flash. We built the greatest nation with the greatest cities, the greatest military, and the greatest freedom ever known to man without all that. We did it without an income tax. We did it without other people telling us where to build the cities, how to build them. It was entrepreneurs and free men and women deciding where to start their businesses, how much to invest in them, and how to go about their business. We don't need administrators. We need people to look out for the basic things, and the basics always start with looking at it through the lens of freedom.
Man, Shane, I ain't gonna lie. When I was listening to our podcast earlier, the last one we dropped, I said, man, Shane, you could speak very well. And somebody's commented on the YouTube said, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. So I appreciate your input, man. It's very, it's awesome to hear. And even when I listen back to the pods, I'm going to say this, Shane, I always say it. I'm not a victim. And it kind of correlates to what you said. I just need the government to get out of my way.
That's right.
Let me have my escort. Let me have my trucking company. Let diesel not be too high. Do whatever, but just get out of my way and watch me work and watch me succeed. That's the mindset I have as an independent oil man, trucker, father, entrepreneur. I don't want the government in my life whatsoever. Less government intrusion and less taxes, because taxation, let's be honest, is theft. And we pay too much taxes, especially in the city. Let me go ahead and segue. I'm going to say the last thing about Bredimus. Guys, if you want someone that is a fraud, snake, politician, I think you can tell clearly who we think is that in this conversation. And if you want someone that's going to be sitting there with their finger on local businesses and trying to harass them, there is actual proof that we have on certain candidates. And you can also look it up for yourself, the Mask of Midland page, certain people push an agenda. And I believe they're actually worse than rhinos. But like Shane said, they are actually taught and they have time to do so. Like, I'm looking at some of these candidates like her, and I'm like, must be nice to go run with the police for 10-hour shift, and then come make a photo op about it. Real men and women of Midland are taking care of families, and I don't have time to go waste driving around with the Midland Police Department just so I can say that I roll with them. Point is, anyone but Bredimus, I'm glad there's someone running against her. And if you do your own research, I will believe you will come to the conclusion that she is not the right person for this position in the city of Midland due to her radical leftist ideologies that she tries to conceal under the Republican conservative Latin banner. I've seen her at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic, they had a forum, and there she is. I digress. I don't want to say anything more, and I'll leave it at that. Let's go to the next comment from Miguel. Says lawsuit against MISD in the city of Midland. Do you know about that? That's not the ranch land, is it?
So I believe they were talking about that before I went on days off, and the way I understood it was that they were going to try to bring a lawsuit based on that either the sales contract or some part of the bond, one of the two, I'm not totally clear on it, said something about when they purchased ranch land that it was to be used for golf activities, sales of merchandise related to golf activities and fundraisers, but nothing else. So that's the way I understood it. I'm gonna go ahead and give my 2 cents on what I think will happen. I think what will happen, the administrative state, and I include the local court system in that, is they'll have their lawyers. Whatever happens, whatever gets filed, MISD will come in there with their lawyers, and the courts will rule that you cannot sue the school district. That one, either their government immunity protects them from you being sued, or that you don't have, as an individual or as a group of people, jurisdiction to sue them for this, because I believe it is part of the state code governing school boards and school districts, that they are exempt from zoning laws when they buy property.
Wow. I'm part of the Save the Ranch Land Facebook page, and man, people are pretty upset about it. That's all I got to say about that. I'm going to go ahead and continue with the next one. Someone says, Clay says, how about all the homeless that live around the South Side? Now, that's right up my alley.
Man.
Look, let me just say, when I leave
the
yard.
No, I'm going to tell you where you saw him. Let me guess. I'm just going to make a guess real quick. What is it? If you take the Lamesa exit coming west, if you're coming in from Stanton, and you take the exit for Lamesa Road, but you go past Lamesa Road, right where the hotel is before you get to IHOP, and you turn north. It runs right up there by Travis. That's how I always come. I can never remember the name of that road, but I always take it and drive north to Hicks.
Oh, all that little section.
But right past that hotel where all those trees are in that little draw.
Right by Walmart, right? The corner, Caddy corner?
Well, no, not Caddy corner. It's about a block away from Walmart, a block and a half away from Walmart. You know, when you're coming on the service road and you see that big hotel that's past the apartments, you turn north, there's a draw, I don't know, 300 yards, maybe 500 yards from Travis Elementary, and it's all treed up and grown up with shrubs, but there is a camp in there.
Shane, not just there, though. Right there by I-20.
Yeah.
I see them on 158 coming into town right there by the soup kitchen. It's the Breaking Bread.
Yeah.
So where you're saying that they're always there. They're always by Walmart.
Right.
But the one primarily that I see every day, because I don't get off on that exit. I come through 158 because my yard,
yeah,
you know where I work at, right? The oil company. I come down and I always see a bunch of people. I saw one guy, he just dances on the corner. You know, he looks like he's not all there. And I hope nothing ever happens to him or someone of the public. But I come down by the car wash, and they're just walking across the street. And I start wondering, or I start thinking, Shane, and I think this is why they're in the South Side, we have these soup kitchens that are in these nonprofits in the community feeding them. And I'm a Christian, but at the same time, I believe that if you, like the Lord Jesus said, right? If you teach a man to fish, you're going to feed him forever. But if you just feed him a fish every day, he's basically be dependent on, at this point, the government. Right? It's not really the church. The church does do it, but they're 501c3 entities, so they're basically part of the beast system. I don't care what anybody says. If you're a 501c3 and you're a church, you are limited on what you can really say or how you operate because you have tax exemption. That's a whole other can of worms. Point is, where I see them is all throughout the South Side. We seen the video where the guy's on the back of the car. You know, that was another situation, and that was in the West Side, I believe, Southwest. But the point is, I wonder if they would allow these nonprofits, these soup kitchens, to be in other areas in Midland besides They're like usually in the poor side of town.
Right.
Which they might say that's where usually
where the need is. Or
yeah, exactly. But at the same time, though, like I said,
well,
let me just finish my thought here. I just want to say this. Paul said that if a man don't work, he shouldn't eat. And the responsibility of feeding the needy, if you're a Christian, there's actual description in the Bible, or there's instructions. It should be the church, right? You feed your local congregation, your people. But that's not how people operate. But I said to say this. If someone's able-bodied and they don't work, I'm against, giving any freebies to anybody, to be completely honest. Right. If they're lame, if it's a widow, whatever. Disabled is another word for lame. Maybe so, of course. But I just find it very odd, and it's very annoying, to be honest, when I'm driving in my neighborhood and they have these nonprofits feeding or giving away food to everybody, that with that, we have people that are homeless all throughout the area, and then this makes it more dangerous for my family. And people are going to get mad. They're going to say, "Oh, Nino, you're mean, this and that." But do you see where I'm coming from right here, Shane?
Right. No, absolutely, I do. And let me say this: the first thing that I would say is that having the nonprofits feed grown ass able-bodied men, that contributes to the problem.
Thank you.
They're going to go where they can be fed at. And now,
what if they're illegals? What if they're? And I even said, I bet you. And we already know what's happening. We already have reports. Friends speak up. Videos taken down. These nonprofits, I believe, not just in Midland, but in particular Midland, they are actually helping and abating illegals. And I can't sit here and just prove it, but I have a good inclination, and I think there has been proof. But I'm just saying, I think they are actually helping the illegal population in West Texas. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, in my opinion, maybe the most important thing of that is an able-bodied man, I believe, that is living that lifestyle. Sad to say that, and I know everybody's making choices, and ultimately at the end of the day, you're responsible for the road you choose to go down. But I just think as root causes in my imagination, to allow yourself to live that way, there has to be one of two or three issues going on, and it's epidemic proportions. The first one is godlessness. The second one, I would say, and this kind of intermingles with, drug addiction issues and things of that nature, which are fed by godlessness. But those people, in my opinion, have probably suffered an injustice that they couldn't get themselves to get past, whether it's the way this system is set up. They make it so easy. When things happen in relationships and marriages, and you hurt one another's feelings, you hurt one another's pride, and I personally believe that forgiveness and honest, I mean real forgiveness, and being willing to hold your pride down. Pride's a deadly sin for a reason, because it'll tear up a lot of things, including marriages. And it works both ways, but a lot of times I think men have lost their children for no greater reason than they hurt the pride of a woman that he had children with. And to lose your children, I'm going to tell you right now, people can make light. Guys can make light of it. They can, it's all good. I got me another old lady, whatever. I'm going to tell you, that's the single greatest imperative in my life as a man, is to raise my children well and leave them better off than I was. And I believe that for all men. And when you suffer, when you not only suffer it by chance, by circumstance, but that the system, you go through it, and they go, oh, Jack, I don't care. Whatever you got to say don't matter. She's the mama. She gets them kids. You pay X amount of dollars, or you can't see them. And if you don't pay it also, we're going to put you in jail. I mean, I just believe there's a lot of guys that can't recover from that. I mean, just look at it a different way. Let's say that wasn't the way they lost their kids. If you can imagine losing your kids in a horrible accident, there's very few things. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a believer that men in general, of good health and sound mind and body, there's not anything that we can't recover from. We can lose everything. and we can find the strength to get up and go find whatever job we can get or whatever way of making money and building something back up for ourselves, the loss of the love of a good woman or your children may be the thing that, I mean, honestly, that's, and especially if you've invested and committed wholeheartedly, because that happens too, where you don't even have to hurt her pride. You're working, you're busy, you're never home, and she just says, you know what, I don't want to do that. I want to go out to the bars. I want to go do this. And she, goes and does what she does, and that's what happens, and you still lose your kids. So I believe that that's a big part of the homelessness problem. Guys have suffered some kind of injustice like that. They've had some kind of trauma, maybe lost their kids in an accident or something of that nature. They started down that road, took that, I won't say that easy path, but just that path that was there to deal with the immediate, the sense of being overwhelmed and destroyed. Because we probably all get there at one point or another. We have moments throughout life where we're like, man, if this is how it is, man, it's not worth it. And you got to always get yourself to that next point where you say, it doesn't got to be like this, and it's up to me to make it better than this. And some guys maybe never get back to that point, but so we have it. And I would say nationally, not just in Midland, but nationally, we have an epidemic of homelessness. And I would point to those issues that we just outlined. The nonprofits who are mostly well-intentioned, I believe.
Oh, yeah, they're good people.
At least as far as the men. I mean, like you said a while ago, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. I mean, you can't, you can't just keep feeding grown, able-bodied men. And I do know that there's a lot of guys, get out, go halfway houses, do this, that, whatever, and they're starting wherever they can, and they'll take any opportunity. And I know that those nonprofits also give opportunities, help people get their feet under them, and all of that. Thank God for that. There's got to be, honestly, there's got to be soul searching on those people's parts. And I mean the homeless fellas, because without them doing some soul searching and finding that desire to change their circumstances, there's not really anything society can do other than feed them. That's it.
They done gave up. They're broken.
Yeah, and that's sad.
Man, when you talk about losing a family and all that, man, I'm over here just getting, I got to admit it, kind of somewhat teary-eyed over here. That's probably the one worst thing, man, can you imagine, especially for a man such as ourselves, men like us, that all we worry about is providing. And like you said, leaving. That's exactly how I am. I want to leave my kids better off than I was. Not spoil them spoil them rotten, but at the same time, I want them to be better off than me. I want my sons to be better men than what I was. And then that way, when they get older, they do, they do the same thing. I'm going to say where there's not really homelessness is in Poland.
Right.
I saw a video about Poland.
Right.
They actually have the authority now to shoot people dead
at the border
for crossing the border. And when I saw that video, Shane, and people love the president, and they don't even really look at him like a left, right, whatever. I think he's more right-leaning, but he governs in a way that even the lefties, they're happy and appreciative that he rules like that. And they ask the women, how do y'all feel walking? I mean, it's clean. There's no homeless people.
Well, they also see the international news with all the craziness going on everywhere else. So they might not have appreciated it 10 years ago, but they certainly do today.
Shane, have you noticed about Poland, man? That's crazy. Yeah. It's a beautiful, they got a border, and he said the wall didn't take that long.
Right.
And then he's like laughing about it, and people, I looked at the comments, and they're like, man, imagine if we did that.
Right.
People are actually genuinely happy to see it, even from the people that are watching the video. And I'm even like, it's so beautiful.
That also brings to mind, so the United States, we're not the average country. You cannot compare us to England, Sweden, Norway, any of these little countries on multiple fronts. People will try to compare, say, well, they have socialist health care and they do all this and they do all that. Well, that's because our military's been protecting them for 50 years. They don't have to spend money on military budgets and all of that. But those were, by and large, homogenized societies of the same ethnicity, people that shared the same culture and traditions for hundreds of years. The United States is really unique in, one, the fact of all the different people, different nationalities, different ethnicities, whatever category you think you could put somebody in a demographic, all the different religions. And without that Constitution, we would have never gotten as far as we have, And what you start to see is, especially when the government is forced to create division and tribalism to maintain a power base, you start to see more tribalism, more division, and the crazy thing to me when you mentioned that was one of the things I remember seeing that the Polish president, prime minister, whatever, he said something of that nature. Well, when we need workers, we'll go find workers, but in order for them to even come here and work, they have to understand these are our laws, these are our traditions, and this is what's expected of you when you come here. Now, for a long time, that mostly worked in the United States.
When was it, Shane?
I'm saying, yeah, but I'm saying the late 1800s, early 1900s. We still had quite a bit of immigrants coming. Even if you look back, probably to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of people, mostly from Mexico on the southern border at that time, would come. Some of them would stay and start families here and work here. Some of them would come over here and work and then go back to their families when they were done working. And that actually, the heritage in Texas, that's crazy. That's why you see so many people say Texas is different. It really is different. Like, I believe that we are probably more diverse musically. Like our taste in music is more broad. Our taste in entertainment, pretty much everything. I mean, like, who can go to a car show and then you get to a long row of vehicles with a bunch of lowriders on them? Who can't appreciate some of those rides, right? And when you're seeing that stuff as a young kid, some of them are more impressive than the traditional restored vehicles that are immaculate. Just because of some of the stuff that's been added to them with bags and stuff like that. But you'll see that when you go to a car show in Texas, it's not just old white men looking at classic cars. It's a bunch of different people looking at a bunch of different cars. Old farm trucks, low riders, hot rods, restored classic cars. I mean, when you have these situations, I would tell you in relation to that, you don't have to have a homogenized society where, it's America works if we stick to that Constitution, if we allow people in and we bring people in as needed, and they go through a process where they understand that, listen, I know you grew up in this culture, but over here, no culture, no past supersedes this Bill of Rights, this Declaration of Independence, this Constitution. This is what makes it work. And you have to, if you're going to be a citizen, you have to swear not to violate that. Meaning, just like the deal, you could go into whatever cultures they have long-standing rivalries or enemies in other cultures or whatever. That's dead. That has to be dead here. It's got to be.
One more thing about great man. You're bringing it today, Shane. You really made me want to step my podcast game up, man. Great job. I really appreciate your insight there. I'm going to say this. One more thing about Poland, and we're going to move on because I got one more good comment here. I don't think they even have McDonald's. I think that their food, from what I've seen, is more of a local. You're going to eat some good food.
Whole Foods.
I'm not saying that they don't have McDonald's, but I think I heard him say that they don't have fast food there, that they basically have like old school restaurants where you're going to eat from the community. You know what I'm saying? It's way different. Now, I want to watch that video and learn more about Poland, but just a little clip I saw today.
I believe that's pretty true of most European nations. Like, they have fast food, but even the fast food companies, they're not allowed to put certain like dyes and chemicals and like they are in the United States. It's the Wild West over here when it comes to what they can put in food.
Well, like my wife said, she told my kids that the food they make here, certain things are banned over there, so they'll ship off. American companies will ship off certain things over there that they can eat, but they won't sell it to well, what they sell to us, they can't sell it nowhere else.
So I got a closer example.
Go ahead.
I don't know that in Mexico it's against the law for them to use all these crazy chemical sugars that we use in the United States, like in sodas. Anybody in Texas can tell you they use real sugar in Mexico in a soda.
You can tell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can tell. Anytime you get one, man, it's fresher for one thing. It's fresher and tastes better to me. And that's not a knock on a particular brand or whatever. I say Coke. I call everything Coke, no matter what the brand name is. But just that aspect right there, in the different, we see that daily, and a lot of people prefer that. The only unfortunate thing is since it has to be made in Mexico to have real sugar in it, it costs more money over here than to go get, you can go get a 12-pack for what 3 Cokes from Mexico cost you,
Man, it's crazy. The groceries are crazy. That's a whole other topic, but let's go ahead and segue here. We're winding down a little bit. Somebody said, and this kind of reminded me of Crane. I don't know if you saw my post about Crane, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Christina, and this kind of will segue into that, says, not locally, but I'd like to hear why people are slicing the tires of truckers taking supplies to the hurricane victims. I'd like to hear more about this laser weathering. If anyone knows, please let me know. Now, it's kind of somewhat more conspiratorial. I haven't heard nobody sabotaging nothing, but I did see a clip on Twitter. I think 8 illegals, I want to say they're Venezuelans, were caught robbing people caught in the hurricane disaster.
Yeah, robbing dead bodies.
So touch on that real quick. But before I'm gonna preface this. Touch on that and maybe what she said. We're just gonna keep our head on a swivel. Christina, God bless you. I know you followed me for a long time, but once you touch on that, I want to touch on the situation with Crane, where they got the ad on Crane, the newspaper, and it's a bunch of Venezuelans and Cubans that are wanted in Crane, Texas. That's crazy. I never thought I would see the newspaper of Crane having these illegals on the front page, and then I'm like, damn, they're in Crane now? But go ahead and talk about these hurricane victims.
Well, 2 things about that. The first thing that I will tell you, anytime you wonder why that somebody could do that to hurricane victims or slashing the tires of truckers that are bringing aid and this and that.
Lowlifes.
Even back to the most recent hurricane in Houston when they say, people were assaulting linemen or whatever. I will always go back to this. When your government sanctions and makes it so easy and tells you that one human has the right to dispose of the life of another human through abortion, once you accept that, I mean, if the government sanctions it and 45% of society agrees that under any circumstances that they should be able to do that. Well, if you grew up with your family believing that and all that and this and that, that it's okay to kill babies, why would you think it's a problem to rob somebody? Hell, robbing them ain't as bad as killing them.
Damn, Shane, I like how you brought that.
You cannot devalue life and expect other people to value it. You can't do it.
And then I saw the damn White House, that little TikToker on TikTok. I want to do a reaction video. I don't know if you've seen him. He's like he does TikToks for the White House, a little white, young liberal.
Oh, I don't know his name. I can't remember his name, but
he's on a video that went viral on Twitter saying that he puts no value on fetuses from a certain, 20 weeks or younger. I'm like,
right.
He said, you were a fetus at one time. How the hell do you not put value on a fetus? When you were one time, it's so disgusting, but I'm glad you bring it back to abortion, because you think you're right. If the society we live in now don't care about babies in the womb, from the womb to the tomb, they're not going to care about someone getting robbed in a hurricane situation.
So here's the deal. The argument that sways most of those people that will vote based on abortion is that a woman has a right and a woman has these freedoms. And this is what I'm going to say. Just like a man, a woman has the freedom to choose who she's going to lay down with. When she chooses who she's going to lay down with, she has the right and the freedom to choose whether to make him use contraception or to use contraception herself. If they don't do that and she takes a pregnancy test, or she's late and thinks she may be pregnant, there's always the morning after pill. They sell it in Walmart before there is a baby, Before there is a fetus, there's a step in there, okay? So if that's not a freedom, if that's not enough freedom, they'll never accept anything else as being enough freedom. You know,
yeah, good point.
You freedom of choice or whatever you want to call it. Well, you're making choices all along the way. You're making choices from the time you decide to leave the restaurant and go to the man's house or take him to your house. You're making choices when you decide whether to copulate. You're making choices whether you decide to use contraception. You know, all along the way, you got choices. And the sad thing is, honestly, I'm going to say, I personally believe the concept of being able to have that choice is based off of fear that they're going to get pregnant and some guy's not going to do the right thing and some guy's not going to be responsible because, you know, you can have that guy that steps up and what I call the right thing is to say, okay, even if we don't know each other, right? The greatest biological imperative that they have as humans is to procreate. That's why the sex drive is so strong. So we may not know each other that well or whatnot, but I will accept total responsibility. I would like for you to join me and let's try to raise a family together. Because guess what? How many, I mean, you could go look at statistics or whatever about falling in love and getting married and this and that. We know for centuries, a lot of people didn't even know each other till the day they got married, right? And my personal opinion on that, it's great if you can meet, you know, a girl in high school, y'all fall in love, y'all respect one another, y'all grow together, y'all have common values, you can get married, everything goes great, you have a family, a good life, and all that. That's awesome. That's great. But my personal opinion, love is not a feeling. Love is a commitment. And this is why so many people are so quick to get a divorce is they think, I'm not in love no more. Well, love is something that you choose to be committed to every day, that no matter how good or bad, even on their worst days, that you're going to do your best to understand and help your partner. It's kind of like those people say, well, you know, marriage is 50-50. No, I'm going to give 100%. You're going to give 100%. I'm going to do everything I can to make your life better and easier. And for you to know that as we're going down this road, I'm not going to abandon you. No matter how hard it gets, I'm not going to abandon you. And that aspect of it right there is why people cannot, very few of them can stay married.
Damn, Shane, that's really deep, man. I think next time we need to do a good talk on, you know, being a father, these topics and whatnot, man, because I think we really have a grasp on that. You know what I'm saying? And thankfully, me and my wife, we were high school sweethearts. But you're right, though. Marriage really is a kind of a business, or more or less a business arrangement. It's some kind of an agreement, right?
Right.
And if you look at it like that, so I tell my kids, you know, once you marry your partner, all that lovey-dovey stuff, that's cool. I said, but you need to understand you're committing till one of you dies.
Right.
That's how I look at marriage. It's an agreement biblically till death do you part. So I tell my kids, it's cool to be in love and all that, but at the same time, I'm not saying shake that off, but you need to understand that it's a commitment to raise a family. There's a reasoning for it, and there's good reason for it, but it's not all about just being, like you said, these emotions of love. It's right to have love, but like you said, it's more than just the feeling or the butterflies. And some people, you know, they get divorced because they don't have that feeling no more, but it's more than that.
Good. Case in point, we could take yourself or myself. I have never met anybody that I agreed with 100% of the time on 100% of issues or decisions that I was making. And same goes for marriage. It's like that. You have to, more than anything else, be committed to, I'm not going to quit. I am not going to give up on you. I'm going to give you my best. I expect you to give me your best.
Through thick and thin, through good and bad.
And when you struggle, I'm going to be your strength. And when I struggle, I need you to be my strength. I mean, you know, there's sad to say, you know, that I think so many young people, especially if they're living in rough circumstances and they don't have a particularly maybe bright future in front of them, they don't have a concrete plan or whatever. That's why it's so easy for them to be promiscuous and devalue themselves as in, like it means, so I don't, right now I'll say this, I don't care who you are. If you're a young woman, there is only one of you in the world. There's only one of you. And nobody can put a value on you, a price if you want to, whatever you want to call it, except you. And it breaks my heart to see so many people, because of other people's opinions and the norms of the society that we're in, that they're willing to devalue themselves to the point that they would have a casual relationship with somebody who's going to, 10 minutes after they leave them, they're going to be talking about what a piece of trash she was or this or that. And they're going to, now they might say, oh yeah, but they're still going to be talking about, oh yeah, that was some good stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Hey, guess what, girls? Every woman has one. I'm going to tell you right now, I have never had any that wasn't good. But that did nothing for me. That was a flash in the pan. Those things, they come, you talk about something being temporary. That is the most temporary thing of all.
Man, I love how you put that in women. That's out to my daughter too. Have value. You're valuable. Being pure is a value.
Yeah.
That's a valuable, I don't want to say asset, but that's very valuable. I can present my daughter's hand in marriage and she's a pure girl to her husband. And my daughter and son, their boyfriend and girlfriend, they love that I was strict on my kids because they weren't out there running the streets. And they actually get to marry somebody or hopefully marry somebody that's pure.
Right.
Man, this is pretty good. I just want to say I totally agree, Shane. Know your value, know your worth, ladies, and don't just give it away to every person that gives you a compliment on Instagram. Know your worth, and we will touch on that later. One more thing I want to squeeze in there. We're already running out of time, but the Crane news. So I'm going to say, Shane, real quick, let's touch on this for a couple minutes, but I never thought I was seeing Crane, Texas in the newspaper. The front page, I'll put it on the screen. There's a bunch of foreigners, a bunch of Cubans and Venezuelans wanted. It's kind of like the old Wild Wild West, but they're in Crane, Texas. Crane, Texas, give a quick rundown. What is Crane? Can you believe this happening?
Crane is a little town. I mean, I can't remember. It's been a couple years since I've been through there, I guess. But when I say a little town, I mean it's a small town. I want to say around 7,000 people, maybe
If
a little.
that, yeah.
And it's always been a good West Texas town, honestly. But like anything else in the oil field, they draw people from all walks of life. And I'll say this, the one thing I'll say about it, kudos to the sheriff or the law enforcement and the publishers that published that and say, but here's the thing, doing that right there, man, that's much better than having a line in an item saying we're looking for so-and-so, and a arrest, all that. That right there, that makes an impact. And it's sad. It's sad that's being forced on that community to have to suffer more than they would normally have to suffer. But I would encourage law enforcement everywhere to do the same thing. When you have somebody that does something or acts in a way that's dangerous to the community, yeah, get it out there. Put them on blast.
And but you know what's crazy though? I posted it on my non-political page that I run. I'm not going to say the name because I like to be behind the scenes on Facebook. And someone said, well, we know who you voted for. And of course, it's kind of being like an insult at me. But I said, yeah, Trump, whatever. But I was like, that's how dumb people are or how ignorant they are to the fact that this is dangerous, right? And you want to make this a political issue and say you voted for Trump. Why wouldn't you want people that are here illegally, that are in the wanted on the front page of Crane, Texas? This is not a metropolis, y'all. This is a little town primarily of Hispanic and white American citizens that work hard in the oil field. It's a little oil patch town, and it's being flooded with illegals, just like Midland, Odessa, West Texas, part of the whole United States. But for someone to sit there and say, we know who you voted for. Well, don't you want to know who's in your community committing crimes and they're in the wanted paper in the front page of Crane News, a little newspaper in a little town? When they told me that, I almost blew my lid over here. But at the same time, for me to see these, and I agree with what you said, put them on the front page. But for me to see this is a telling of the times that we're living in a time now where even the little back road cities of America in Bible Belt, West Texas, these people are here and they are actually causing ruckus and causing problems for citizens of a small community.
Well, another reason that's notable, 9 people being wanted at the same time in a place as small as Crane, Texas, that would be notable in and of itself, even if they weren't illegals.
Very true. And with that, y'all, we got to end it because we want to keep it within an hour. Final words, Shane, go ahead.
Man, I just hope everybody will do anything they can to keep it on the forefront. Our thoughts and prayers on those folks in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, all over the Southeast United States. I mean, that's some of the videos and stuff coming out of there. It's just horrible, and a lot of people have lost people they love. And thank God for our countrymen that are out there helping them, trying to save people, find people, get them food and water and the things that they need.
Amen. With that, y'all, thanks for watching. We're out of here.
All right, bro.